YouTube. Today is leg day. This is legs, I think it's legs B, might be legs A, fuck knows. Anyway, my other session I start with a hip thrust. Why? Because I need to grow my glutes. And this session starts with hamstrings. So I guess that this session is a little bit more hammy quad focused compared to the other one, just because of more exercise order than anything, because essentially the movements are the same, and then my glute work on this session comes more towards the end. So looking forward to getting stuck into it. Just done my warm-up. My warm-up is very short. I do like to get my body tired, but just to get my body into doing some movement, and yeah, ready for some seated leg curl as the first exercise. With the seated ham curl, I get a lot of questions. I've actually had quite a few DMs since I've started posting about doing it, asking how I keep myself locked into the pad, so basically where I'm not moving around. It's really simple. If you go too heavy, you will not be able to keep yourself locked in. If you do the weight that is right for you and your musculature, you will be able to stay locked in. The biggest thing is, what are you doing? Are you doing a weight that you can use and do right and do well, and still putting in the effort, still putting in the intensity? Or are you going too heavy and not actually enabling yourself to be able to do the movement effectively? That's the first set done. 1 rep up from last time, which is a win post show. Sometimes it's easy to feel a little bit weak after your competition. That kind of adrenaline that you've had leading into your competition drops down a little bit. And then it's all about going back to what's the next goal. The next goal is to look even better than next time. So that just goal keeps on going and churning. In my setup prior to the Olympia, I was doing a hamstring curl first and then last, so that there's less warm sets, meaning a little bit less volume on my hamstrings. Kuba has created for the session to be a little bit more condensed, so less exercises, less warm-up sets, but it's the same volume in terms of working sets. So here, instead of 2 sets, I now have 4. I guess that's probably one of the only really biggest changes on this session, because everything else is the same. But it also means that then I can run seated on this one, lying on the other one, rather than both in both sessions, meaning that hopefully we can make some good progress weight-wise and reps-wise on this. Whereas when you're doing almost the same exercises every 5 days, it becomes a lot more challenging to create that progression. Whereas now it's the same exercise every 10 days. So there's that little bit more recovery window between, meaning that we are able to make some more progress on these sets. Next exercise is leg extension. I use my wrist straps to wrap myself in anything that I'm pulling, pull downs, RDLs when I used to do them. leg extensions. I'm quite a strong person, but I am very light, so this helps me to stay locked in. And if I'm doing a pull down or a row, anything like that, if I was to do it without any wrist straps, my fingers would give away before my muscle mass does. I'm not a power lifter, I don't need to work on my grip, so I use these, the premium leather wrist straps from Hardbody. Use my code MEG to get the discount out. Leg extensions. Here, I make sure that my knees are in line with the pivot point of the machine. If they aren't and they're too far forwards or too far back, the way in which you can actually move the machine and keep tension into your quads gets a little bit minimized. So keeping yourself with your knees aligned with the pivot point is always really important. Then you want full stretch without bottoming out the machine. If you bottom out the machine, you lose tension on your quads, and you want full extension. And that means that you'll probably feel like you're hyperextending your knees if you're going into full extension, not just straight. That way, if you think about almost your kneecaps pulling back towards your hips, so there's no hip movement and it is literally just you driving the shin up, you'll keep so much tension into your quads. And then they'll get big and massive and huge, and you'll get shredded when you're supposed to be shredded. Big legs are sexy. I don't really get that much pain in my knees on an isolation. If I do, it's probably because I've gone a little bit too heavy. Whereas on any compound lifts that is more quad focused, I'll always use some knee sleeves. These are the single ply from Hardbody. I don't use the big thick ones because obviously it just makes the movements a little bit easier, and we don't want that. When I used to have really bad knees before I got stem cells, I did use the thick ones because it took that kind of harshness out of the bottom of the rep. So with people with really bad knees, I understand that. But if you don't, and you essentially just need warmth to keep the joint warm and happy, a single ply will do more than enough. It allows me to be able to get great range without getting that little bit of that pinchy feeling, and only so many people will understand what that means right at the bottom of the rep. So single ply, Meg 10, Hardbody. So, on this and quite a few of my seated leg curls, my rep ranges are the same. On that set, I got 13 reps. My top of my rep range is 15. The bottom of my rep range is 10. Lots of people think about it in terms of, top set and back off. Potentially the back off is easier. I'm going to use exactly the same load. I'm going to give as much intensity as my first set. Will I get the same reps? Absolutely not, no. And I shouldn't be, because that would probably mean that I've put it out on my first set. But there is no point in me dropping load if I've gotten so far above my rep range. So I will aim to get 10, because I think that that is doable. But there's definitely no need to pull back on load just for the sake of the fact that it's a back off. The reps are the same. I got the top of the rep range. So let's crack on. So why do I use so many back pads and plates and whatnot? Because I'm short. Unfortunately, people don't make the machines very well for short people. Nitro gym equipment do, because they get me to trial it before they put it on the gym floor, which is fantastic, meaning that I don't have to mess around with stuff like this. If you are short, get yourself an actual back pad or a yoga block, because you'll need it 50 million times a session. I need to get 10. Let's go. Come on, come on.
Put yourself down. Right, make it easy, make it easy. Right. That's the move. That's the move. Beautiful. Every now and again, that practice will go.
I was going way too heavy leading up to my competition, so I told myself off. I've reset my numbers and I'm making sure that my control and tempo stays perfect, as does my form, to keep as much tension in my glutes. If you are someone who does not make progression using the 2-set mentality or progressive overload, you either don't train with good form, don't train with good tempo, or you don't train hard enough, or it's a mixture of all those things. Have a think about it, be honest with yourself like I was with myself, and let's get to work with progress. It is the most essential way to build muscle. Judges' feedback for me was my upper body is borderline too big for figure. My lower body is pretty perfect, but it was a little bit too lean. So I need to balance out my top to bottom. She didn't actually say anything about my glutes, but looking at the other ladies, I could do with a little bit more glute and a little bit more dumped. So basically, I don't train upper back anymore. I'm not allowed to do hinges, RDLs, deadlifts anymore, because my erectors are very thick. And pretty much no other bigger girl has a back like that. apart from Ria. And she's also been told that her upper body is still a little bit too big. So it just basically means my training on my upper body days is a little bit less pressy, more like dumbbell shoulder raises, what are they called, front raises and stuff, which is fine, I've got over myself. And then my pull sessions are essentially just glutes and lats rather than all of my back with the hinges. And then leg days are pretty much the same. The biggest thing will be that I won't use any assistance in my off season, meaning that obviously like the gains will be a little bit less compared to when that's obviously in. So that's fine by me, I'm happy for that. Obviously we'll use it in a prep, but basically the need to use it in an off season is very small. So yeah, that is my training setup, that is my feedback, and that is what I'm doing to implement those things that they've given to us. Feedback, especially when you're at a level that you're going to Olympia, is pinnacle, because you don't necessarily need to add weight, but you need to specifically know what you need to do to hit that class criteria. When you're an amateur coming up the ranks, little things like this, it essentially is, you probably do need more mass everywhere. There might be little things here and there, but essentially you just need more mass, and that's what you've got to remember. I've got like a muscle here. Yeah. Fuck knows what that is. Growing new muscles. Exercise is the walking lunges. I'm pretty much doing this movement for the entirety of my leg. There's not really a bias of glute or quad. I'm going to get both because I'm not taking a super wide stance where my shin is staying vertical. I'm not taking a super narrow stance where my knee is going super far over my toe, but my knee is traveling slightly over my toe, and I'm also keeping my hips under to keep tension on my glutes. So it's predominantly my whole leg. Essentially a squat, but with one leg, and walking with some dumbbells. That's pretty much the set. Next movement is the calves. They're at the end of my session because they have least priority. Have quite big calves. Don't really know why. Probably from diving. But you want some big calves, you still want to take your sets to complete intensity. Make sure that you're going through a full range of motion and making sure that you're training them quite frequently. They are a muscle group that will recover quite quickly. So if you didn't have any, you could probably get away with training them like 4 times a week. That is the end of legs. It was a great session. Progressed on all movements. Made sure my form stayed tight. Made sure that my tempo stayed tight. I want to be able to progress my lifts and then be great. Not end up with lots of injuries throughout this off season. Off season won't be extra long because it's not necessary. But that was a great session. Looking forward to continuing to build. I've got a couple of weeks of not being in UltraFlex, which I'm very sad about. But I will still be training, so there'll still be lots of vlogs and things like that coming your way. So hopefully you liked it. Please like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and tune in for another video soon.